Accessing Secure Channel. The Agent Files, where aspiring agents rise and masters flourish. Powered by Agent Builder Coaching. Mission initiated. File loading.
Hi there, this is Peter Fan for Agent Builder Coaching. As part of our Aspiring Agent podcast series, this is the introduction to the 7 essentials to success in real estate. And this to us is our core principles under which we have developed and designed all of our programs, where we teach our classes, we run our business ourselves under these premises. So this is really an important part of what we believe are the core essentials of any business, but in particular your real estate career going forward. So you could adopt and adapt these 7 essentials to literally any business, and it has been done. I mean, we make no secrets about it. In essence, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book is built on this. The Michael Gerber's E-Myth book, which is famous for being a simple yet very efficient small business development type program book introduction. These 7 essentials have been kind of taken from those concepts and from those principles and adapted to your future business in real estate. So these are time-tested, absolutely essential pieces to how you're going to best find yourself on a roadmap, on a very well defined and articulated course for your success in real estate. It doesn't mean that if you have a really good roadmap that you're always going to find and arrive at your destination in a timely fashion that you hope it to be. That doesn't always happen, but it's a whole lot more likely than without it, right? And it's that type of correlation that we understand, you understand, that for every action, for every plan, for every program that you implement, for every tool that you want to put in place, it has to perform a function inside of the operations of your business, and therefore move you towards your ultimate set of objectives, which leads us really to the introduction of those 7 essentials. So let's get into it. We don't want to overcomplicate it. This is truly an introduction. So we're going to do a broad-based overview. We'll dig into each of the pieces a little bit more defined later on in the program. I just wanted to give you an overview perspective so that you have kind of the understanding where we're going with this. Okay. So we're going to talk about what the 7 essentials are and why systems create hustle. It's just having good systems in place is inevitably one of those key pieces that makes your life easier, better. And I've said it before, and I'll say it many times again. McDonald's is a prime example of a system put into place that operates the business, and then they hold the systems accountable, right? So it's and the examples are many inside of McDonald's, but in other organizations as well, where really the essentials are taken over through systems, and now everybody's trained to implement the systems to the best and highest effectiveness possible, and then the systems themselves are held accountable for, their production, their efficiencies, and their results. And it's rather than the people, because if the people do exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and the results are not what the company or the organization or your business wants, then have a look at the system. Is there anything that can be tweaked, can be improved, could be upgraded to whatever is necessary in the moment? Because systems 30, 50, 60, 70 years ago compared to now, it's an entirely different story. All I have to say is Blockbuster, yeah, no, Blockbusters. It's the video stores. Uh, that became Netflix. Sears is a prime example, right? Sears owned the catalog business. They owned it. They had the retail, the catalog business, the mail order business. They were the Amazon of the 1920s. Where are they now? Right? So their systems, although very good at the time, became redundant, obsolete. And we can argue about the reasons, but they became obsolete because something better came around, and Sears wasn't ready, willing, able, in the mood, whatever, politics, money, ego, decided not to adapt, you know, modern reality, and therefore lost out an entire billion-dollar industry to a newcomer that was started up in a garage. Right? I mean, it's not really big surprises. Okay, so we're also going to touch a little bit on how these essentials connect and why missing even one can create huge gaps. These are truly essentials. That's why we call them. Okay, so the seven essentials are the big why, and we'll talk about what that means. And superpower, yeah, it sounds a bit corny. And by the numbers, numbers are without question important. SOPs or systematized operating procedure, or standard operating procedure, as some people call them. But the point really is that it's systems, right? Right. Then we have an automatic lead machine. Every business, it doesn't matter which business, whether you're a plumber, a shoemaker, a real estate agent, an accountant, even doctors and financial planners, and you name it. Everybody needs a system to generate new business. If you don't have a system for it, you will fail. There's no question. So that, of all of them, is probably the one that's going to make the biggest difference to your bottom line. But you know, um, the rest is very closely related to that, of course. Then you have your automatic transaction machine or your service delivery model. Right. This is what makes your business smooth, and then that makes clients go wow, or what they expect. And then yes, now you're going to raise it one bar higher by really adding some wow services to it, so superior client services that makes people really uh, start advocating for you. And that is the reason why you do wow, right? Because it generates referrals, repeat business, you know, and longevity in your business. Right? So those are the seven essentials, real quick. And so why do all of these things matter? Well, your own energy, and we see this, by the way. This is a almost a guarantee. We see agents coming into the business, and for 6, 7, 8 months, they just hustle, 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 and it's all rush, 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 and we got to get going, got to get doing. And we see it on an ongoing basis. And then at some point in time, they literally run out of steam, right? Because it's all energy, it's all on excitement, on yeah, that first initial big rush of adrenaline or whatever drives it. But at some point in time, reality sets in and go like, okay, now what? Right? And now what means that they haven't really thought through, okay, there's a set of sequences, there's a set of processes that need to be in place in order to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's crossed, not one part at a time, but all of the time. Okay? And that's where systems really, really come in. And the essentials give structure to all of those systems, but also to your habits, to whatever tools you're going to use, how you're going to use them, where you're going to use your supports, what support you may need, what strengths and weaknesses you may have or may lack. All of that interconnects with each other to one big operational, understanding of how your business needs to run and operate, and what needs doing in order to get there. Okay, the code is actually quite good, so have a look at that. So how do they interconnect? Well, your big why really is your motivator, right? And I've used stories before, but you know, the question is always, if money didn't matter, right? If money was not your driving force to do anything in life, if money wasn't the driving force, what would you be doing? What would you be spending time on? What would you contribute to society? What makes you tick, right? And how are you going to fund that? How are you going to do all of those things that you would like to accomplish? Uh, I think I may, in an earlier episode, have talked about a lady by the name of Iris who decided that she was going to retire from real estate because she had accomplished what she wanted to do. Her big why was to open 2 schools in Peru. You can also call it a superpower, and yes, there's definitely correlation there, but that's why they interconnect, right? But her motivation, her drive, her purpose had become to build and operate these schools in Peru. And so when she decided to retire, she had accomplished in her mind, in her world, that objective as to, hey, now the schools are there. Now I want to be part of the running and the maintenance and the operation of those schools. And that to her was her big why. It made her also, you know, acknowledge and deal with whatever challenges came in her way, because she always had that motivation, always had that purpose. Now, it also gave her opportunity because, she made no bones to her consumers, to her clients, that part of her reasoning was that she was going to give back to society by way of building these schools. So she did bridge, right, her superpower with her big why, right? And made her stand out, differentiate, which is a big deal in this business. Because think about I don't know where you are, but if you're thinking about getting into real estate, one of the key questions to ask yourself is, well, who is my competition? And how do I stand out from them? Well, if you're anywhere in British Columbia in the Lower Mainland, for example, right? I think at the current count, there is about 25, maybe 30,000 real estate agents licensed in the province of British Columbia. There's 130 some odd thousand in all of Canada. All right. So there's always competition, always. So how are you going to stand out? How are you going to be memorable for the right reasons, of course? Right now, saying that you're going to provide excellent service. Well, there's not a realtor out there that puts up their hand and says, "No, I provide lousy service." Right? So that's not a differentiator. What else is it? Well, that connection to something that you're passionate about, that you feel compelled to underwrite, to support, to assist, to fund, to do whatever it is that you think is the right thing to do to help that cause, because it's yours. It makes you unique. That becomes your superpower and can also be part of your big why. They don't have to be the same, but they're similar. Your big why is really, the real roadmap as to the defining measurements and what have you. Okay. Now let's talk about numbers. Numbers have a big place in a career in real estate for various reasons. First and foremost, there are statistical averages that relate to the number of people to work with and on a consistent basis that will generate predictable results. But there's other numbers that you obviously need to know. You need to know statistical numbers as far as listing sales, sales volumes, prices, ratios, cost of doing business, and so on and so forth. And all of these are important because there's nobody looking over your shoulder telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, where to do it. So your numbers become kind of your own benchmark, for the lack of a better word. They can help you kind of compare yourself with where the market is at, in statistical sense, but also in your own objectives. If you set a business plan or an annual goal and it says, "Oh, I need to do X number of deals," well, what does that actually mean? How many people does that represent? How many people do I need to talk to? How many phone calls does that mean? How many doors do I need to knock? How many introductions do I need to make? Right? All of which becomes part of that big set of numbers that you need to become familiar with and comfortable with in order to figure out uh, whether you are on track and whether your objectives, your annual, many years down the road objectives and goals are attainable, and what, if any, adjustments may be necessary in order to get there. Okay. Now, SOPs, as we said, was systematized operating procedures. So if you knew, and now you know, because I kind of pulled the curtain away, so to speak, there's well over 300 tasks for every listing and sale. 300 tasks, from really big ones to really small ones, right? From putting a sign up to getting flyers up to making sure that the title searches are done, and so on and so forth. I could go on and on and on and on. Okay, if you know that, how are you how are you gonna, excuse me, do that properly in such a way that it doesn't drive you nuts, and that you are on track and stay on track with all of those objectives? Well, that's why you need systems, right? Because if you have one client, well, okay, maybe you could have simplified little checklist that keeps an eye on those 300 tasks with one client. But what if you have 5 clients, 10 clients, 15 clients? You see the compounding effect, because everybody's in a different place at the same time. So, in one situation, you need photographs. In the other situation, you need septic removals. In the third situation, you need to get a deposit, and so on and so forth. So it gets really, really busy, really, really crowded at all of these tasks at different stages of a day, a week, a month. Right? So systems, what drives the business. You hold the systems accountable. Okay. So systems, really big deal. And obviously has an impact on your lead generation, right? Because without leads, there is no business. So, what is your system for generating leads? What is your system for following up leads? What is your system for converting leads from suspect to prospect to client to contract to paycheck and beyond? Right? So, everything has a flow and a sequence, and best documented in operating systems so that you can kind of predictably follow through with everything that you expect. Now, the better that is documented, the better that is set up, the easier it becomes to maintain it, but also to possibly at some point in time say, hang on, I want to do the people stuff. I don't want to do the paper stuff. I want to delegate that part. And that's then, when you have documented, that's possible, right? We hear on a day-to-day basis agents say, well, I'm going to hire myself an assistant and have the assistant fix me. That doesn't work, right? Because how is the assistant, by the virtue of them showing up, going to understand how your business functions and operates without you having documented? Doesn't work, right? So, yes, they may have some experience, but that doesn't mean that they know how your business works. This is why the failure rate with assistants and agents is huge. And the frustration level by agents working with assistants is huge. Why? Because they started in the wrong way. Right? You can't get the assistants to set up the systems. No, the systems need to already be defined, And then an assistant can really make a difference because they can really fill in some voids. And yes, there's a huge benefit of having it. Okay, when we talked about systemized operating procedures, this really helps on automated transaction machines, right? Because those are all of these little tasks and big tasks of all of the paperwork aspects and the transactional aspects of the relationship with clients. It's frankly what most really high level salespeople hate to do. They hate the paperwork. So if you don't like detail and paperwork, welcome to the club because we're all members. Sorry, which is, but it is still critically important, right? You understand that you're dealing with millions of dollars of other people's money, and you are responsible to make sure that the paperwork is done properly, timely, accurately, and gets it to the people in the places where it needs to be in time, on time, and correct all the time, not some of the time. Right? You don't have a second chance in most cases. So doing that right is pretty darn critical. You understand that needs no further explanation. That's why systems, again, are key, but these are very specific to transactions. It's really one of those things that you may think that, man, we've this was a difficult transaction, but the client never wants to hear that. Okay, and the client never wants to experience that. Right, so it's our job to make it look super easy and simple, right? Because that's when we know that we've done the job. Okay, that's kind of that seems like a conflict, but it's absolutely essential, which leads me automatically into the wow factor. Because if you make those transactions super, super smooth and do everything else around the transaction, because keep in mind, buyers and sellers are not buying and selling because they're having fun buying and selling. At least 99.9% of all the people are not in the real estate transaction because they're having fun. No, there's something else going on in their life. Sometimes they're really good things like weddings and birth of new children, better employment, higher pay, what have you. But many times it's not so fun, right? Divorces, death, health concerns, um, you know, being laid off, financial problems, you name it. There's many, many, many reasons why people go through significant transitions in life. And that's the underlying core reasoning why you're even there, right? Not understanding that part and ignoring that part will never make you stand out with the consumer. The client wants to know that you really care, not just about the transaction, but about them, right? How all of this impacts them. Yes, you may have done a great job on the transaction, but if they don't see or hear from you before, during, and after, why would they remember you, right? What you do for them after and during, outside of the real estate part, can make a significant difference. And it doesn't need to involve anything about real estate. Okay. But genuinely reaching out and saying, hi, how are you doing? What's happening? How can I make your life a little better? What can I add to what we're doing so that, you know, the transitions in your life are as smooth as possible? Right? So that wow factor is quite key. Now, you've now heard a bit of an overview as to the 7 essentials. Now, there's a workbook, and the workbook is very, very detailed, and we go over it through the more extensive chapters on each of the 7 essentials. But I want you to kind of do a quick look at yourself, a self reflection as to, okay, where am I good? Where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? Right? Do I feel strong about being able to set goals and stay on track and doing that? So that really the area is a big one. Am I really passionate about something in the community and the greater good. Can I somehow bring that into my day-to-day operation as a real estate agent? Can I see that vision? Can I see that set of core beliefs, and how would I go about doing that? How am I with numbers? How important are numbers to me, and do I understand the significance and the correlation between activities and results, and how those relate, and how important that can be in my success going forward in real estate. What about systems? Am I a system thinker? Do I recognize that, hey, if I have to do something 2 or 3, 4 times, I better jot it down, because this may become something that I need to delegate to somebody at some point in time, so that I can make sure that the results are predictable, consistent, right? They're always looked after, they're always done. Right? How am I with lead generation? What does that feel like? What does that act like? And if I needed to do this on an ongoing basis, which you will, what would that feel, look, and act like? And how do I envision doing that? And what is my resistance? How's my tolerance for rejection? How do I feel about all of those things? How do I respond to people saying no to me? Right? All of which will happen. Now, they're not insurmountable, but at this point in time in you assessing whether or not real estate is for you, I think it's important that you take stock inventory of your own kind of responses to those types of questions, because they will all show up in reality, right? And uh, as I said early on in these programs and in this podcast, we're going to be talking turkey with you and talking straight up with you. We want you to join real estate, but we want you to join real estate with your eyes wide open, and recognize and realizing that this is not a walk in the park. This is not a quick rich scheme. This is not something that you can just show up and it's all going to fall into place. No, it's not. It's a business. It's your business, and you need to kind of own it. Great opportunities. Nothing wrong with it, but let's do this essential self check a little bit and see where you rate, right? Give yourself a 1 to 7 rate, and a 1 to 5 rate, and if you're really good, but be honest, it's okay. At this point in time, it's okay. And by the way, there's fixes for all of it. If you feel that, hey, I'm passionate about real estate, but I don't understand all of this stuff, that's okay. It just means that there's a bit more to study, a little bit more to understand, and so on and so forth. But not insurmountable, not at all. Many, many people have come into this business and succeeded with really having one really good core skill, which is they had a drive, a passion. Right? Other people just pure discipline. Okay, and you can accomplish a lot with discipline and consistency. Oof, you can accomplish a lot, but a little bit of passion, a little bit of drive certainly helps. All right, so like I said, in your additional resources, there is a very significant handout. Very significant handout. It's about 60 some odd pages, and it really is a workbook helping you to understand your big why. Setting some objectives around your superpower, your numbers, and so on and so forth. We do also offer a very comprehensive business plan, which is really kind of the accumulation of all of these 7 essentials into your own plan, your own direction. Right? Where this workbook is really about you kind of self-discovering what that all means to you. The business plan is really how you document all of that, how that is going to work and look and feel and act like in your direction, in your future business, and what you anticipate to follow. Right? Hope that makes sense. Really, and just so that we're clear on this, your big why is really your life plan almost, right? Because it's really why are you doing all of this, right? Okay. So some additional resources. I I always encourage the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. I've read it now 4 or 5 times. There's always something new that I learn in it, but it is really about models and systems. That's what that book is all about. You don't learn a whole lot about the day-to-day practices of a real estate agent. There's some, but it's really about you understanding and embedding models and systems into your thought pattern so that everything you look at, see, you recognize, hey, if I'm going to do this a few times, I better develop some sort of a model or system around it so that it becomes easier for me to deliver consistently. Now, then it's important for you to think about some technology that can help you with systems and models, right? Now, it could be as simple as a Google spreadsheet. Okay, there's nothing wrong with a Google spreadsheet as long as you kind of lay it out and say, okay, here are my listing steps, and here are my buyer steps, and here's my from suspect to prospect steps, and here's my and so on and so forth. You just lay it out, right? And you start adding and filling in the blanks as to what that means and what steps you're going to take, and you know uh, it's a good idea for you to do this as an exercise now so that you kind of know what the steps are by the time that you actually get started in real estate. So those are some pretty simple steps and resources. As far as we don't give you a copy of Millionaire Real Estate Agent, but we do give you a copy of the 7 Essentials tracker. We can also we have some tools that deal with setting up your operational system, but keep in mind these are your operational systems. And one of the biggest dangers at this point in time, and also as you prepare for actually getting started in real estate, is getting to this phase where you just want to suck it all up, all this information. You want to just suck it all up, but more. Give me more information. And at the end of the day, you have no clue what you just all took in and what is actually important and what is not, right? So before you get to that phase, you really need to step back and say, okay, I need to define what I am going to look like, what my business is going to look like, how I want to run my business, what I want it to look, what it to be like, what the voice are, what the identity is, what the image is, what the profile is. Define that and then start filling in the blanks for that business model, for that business. Right? It's that question, a very smart man many years ago told me that there's 3 key questions on anything you want to learn. So if you want to learn how to become successful in the real estate business, well, put it on top of a piece of paper and then ask yourself 3 questions. What do I need to do? What do I need to have? What do I need to know? And start filling in the answers to those 3 questions. And very quickly, you will know that you don't need to know it all. You don't need to have it all. You don't need to do it all. Right? So focus only on what you need to do, what you need to have, and what you need to know. That's all you need to focus on. So once you have defined what you want your business to look like, now you can start asking those 3 questions again and say, what do I need to do? What do I need to have? What do I need to know? Right? If you want your business in real estate to come from, say, I don't know, and I'm just picking a topic, okay? But you say, okay, I have a sphere of influence of a few hundred people, and I like working with first-time home buyers. Let's pick a simple one because a lot of people want to do it. Okay, so I want to work with my sphere of influence. Okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to have? What do I need to know in order to successfully work with my sphere of influence? Okay, now you can use Chat GPT. You can use, all kinds of books and resources. You can use your training classes and what have you. Right? There is lots of information about that, and then you pinpoint exactly where you want to focus again. Right? Then you say, okay, first-time home buyers. Well, same thing. What do I need to know? What do I need to do? What do I need to have? How can I stand out to the consumer wanting to be a first-time home buyer? What do they want to know? What do they need to have? What do they need to do? Right? and so on and so forth. So very quickly you can kind of trim down all of this stuff into the essentials of what you need in order to succeed. I hope that makes sense, because it's an important piece of this phase for you to kind of dissect, determine, decide whether or not real estate is actually for you. And what do you need to do? What do you need to know? What do you need to have to make that decision? Right? Kind of a cool question to end up with. All right. So I'll leave you with that. Next session, we're going to really dive into the seven essentials. We're just going to start off with the big why and the superpower, because those are kind of the driving forces for most people behind why they're even thinking about a career in real estate. So we're going to dive into that. In the meantime, again, I encourage you to, download and review the workbook about the seven essentials, and if needed, re-listen to the program, go through your own kind of thoughts and ideas, make some notes, ask yourself those 3 key questions, and hope to see you soon on the next episode of our Aspiring Agent podcast. Talk soon, and have a fantastic day.
File saved. The Agent Files. For more missions, agents' tools, and tactical strategies, subscribe and follow the Agent Files, powered by Agent Builder Coaching. Until next time, stay sharp. Your next mission awaits.